Hey there, I am Barb Higgins, and this is 1,000 Tiny Steps. In this podcast, I share my stories of love, loss, triumph, and tragedy as I continue to retrace my steps and ponder what led to the death of my daughter Molly. By doing so, I hope to not only help myself, but to bring purpose and possibility to those who listen. If you are ready to laugh, cry, shake your head in disbelief, then tie, buckle, lace up, or slip on your shoes, and join me as we begin our 1,000 Tiny Steps.
Hey everybody, it's Barb again, welcoming you to episode 203 of 1,000 Tiny Steps. So in this season of guests, I was just telling my friend Tammy here how many amazing women I've met and how many unbelievable stories I've both learned about and shared. And Tammy's is no different. In the age of weird, mysterious maladies and women's health and all that goes into researching and solving both of these things, Tammy's story is sadly not very unique. Although I have never heard of what illness that she had. I met Tammy in 1990, the early 90s, I guess. She started coaching at Bishop Girton High School. And I was way before Kenny and marriage and kids. And I coached at Concord and she coached at BG, and we're arch rivals all the time. But like all female athletes, I think, we're competitive, but we're also best buddies and you talk about everything together. We had babies at the same time, 21, 22 years ago now. Crazy. And so then life goes on and we lose touch with each other. And I became reacquainted with her on social media because she wrote a book called
Misdiagnosed for Miles.
Misdiagnosed for Miles. So that's a very telling
topic
right there. So the miles piece obviously relates to her running. Tammy is quite an established runner. Tammy was at all the road races and of all the distances and winning and doing well and suddenly disappeared. And, you know, when you don't live in the same town or travel in the same circles, people just disappear.
Okay, so let's say this. Had my child in 2004 and I went back to my postpartum checkup and the nurse looked at me and said, "That's funny. You don't look like someone that should have high blood pressure." And that line right there was, I could have called my book, "It's funny, you don't look like someone who should have high blood pressure." And I was like, okay, well, I'm probably just anxious, new mom stress, whatever. Wrote it off as white coat syndrome, anxious in the office, and sent me on my way. Like we do, we go about our lives. We don't go to the doctor a lot. And there may have been 2-3 doctor appointments between then and 2007. So a couple of years go by and I was running a lot and training for marathons and running marathons and all kinds of road racing, and had the Boston Marathon 2007. It was really one that sticks out in my head because of the horrendous weather. There was a nor'easter, headwind for 26 miles, all the things. And I ended up a little sore. There was more racing to be done that year, so I needed to get physical therapy. I had to get a referral, so I went to the doctor. I get my vitals taken and it's funny, you don't look like you should have high blood pressure. And I was like, I know. And you know what? I've been to the doctor perhaps 3 times in the past 3 years. And each time that is what was said to me. You don't look like you should have high blood pressure. Can you look back in that laptop and just tell me like what these readings have been? And she looked and she's like, you know what? They're really high. They're not just a little high. They were like really high each of those times. I mean, we're talking like close to 200, over 100 and something. And so she told the doctor came in and she said, yeah, well, we'll put you on a low dose blood pressure medication. It was like the diuretic one. I took it, I went home, took it, and I had to come back in a month. And she told me to take my blood pressure, at Rite Aid or whatever, just to check it in the meantime, which I never did because I was busy. When I went back, I was nervous. You want to be healthy. And
Right.
I certainly didn't want to be on a diuretic because I was training and running and it was summer by then. And when I went back, it was high again. And this started a cycle. Multiple medications, adding to that one, taking away, but adding more. I was on 3 medications. Each time that she would change it or add to it and say, come back in a month, let's take your blood pressure. It was always off the charts, like crisis high. Just kept changing it, saying come back. So that was like 2007. It just kept going on. I changed primary care doctors in the meantime several times in the past 20 years. There was never a reason why. I was originally sent, there was like a little poking she wanted to do. I was sent to cardiology. My heart turned out it wasn't the heart. There was no reason. And he wanted to pursue like other reasons, mentioning like adrenal is the kidneys.
Mm-hmm.
And so back then, I mean, it's still relatively early in the world of like the internet. I was Googling lots of things, spent like probably one whole summer Googling the crap out of why. Started like in the meantime also developing migraine headaches. Like I had headaches my whole like life. There was a whole thing in high school and middle school where we thought it was like an allergy to chocolate and cheese. And then my mother thought when I got older in my 20s, it was wine, hormonal. The headaches got worse and worse and worse. And by this now, I'm thinking it's blood pressure medication causing that, just whatever. So I'm Googling everything and I come up with this term, pheochromocytoma. Have you heard of that?
Never have.
Okay, well, I hadn't either, but I decided it's what I had. The symptoms of that were like heart palpitations and headaches and high blood pressure for no reason and like anxiety, all of which I had. The primary care doctor at that time dismissed it. Like I did a 24-hour urine collection test that showed whatever they were testing for was high, but they attributed it to me having had coffee, drinking coffee during the day or going for a run. And so you're fine. That's not it. We're going to continue to just change the meds out. So, the headaches could be, it's a reaction to the blood pressure medication. A lot of years go by. The whole time, mind you, I'm training and running, and that was my thing. Like that's when you're going through stuff, like that's your vice, right? So running became what I needed it. Even though at one point before the cardiologist said I was fine, I was told to wear like a Holter monitor.
Yeah, I've had to wear those. Yeah.
Yeah. There's scary things with your heart. I still went out for runs. In my gut, I just didn't think it was my heart. I really didn't. I mean, at first, of course, I was afraid that something was wrong cardiovascularly, but after so many tests and whatever, I was like, I think it's this other thing. The pheochromocytoma is a tumor on your adrenal gland. It just causes like adrenaline, which if you can imagine, you get an adrenaline rush, right? They told me it wasn't it. Multiple doctors, blah, blah, blah. So finally, I just gave up, stopped taking blood pressure medication altogether, stopped seeing doctors. I mean, this was like, I can't even remember how many years later, but I was like, there's no answer. All these pills you're putting me on are causing all these other problems I thought were attributed to whatever the pills were.
Right.
Yeah. I just don't want to be on medicine. I don't want to take medicine. Right. I was taking so much Excedrin, specifically Excedrin migraine, that I couldn't go a half of a day without taking that. Like I had so many that I would wake up and I would take my Excedrin with my coffee. There was bottles stashed everywhere of Excedrin, and that's all I was taking. So no more blood pressure medications, but lots of Excedrin. I remember sitting at Thanksgiving dinner one year and telling the family, Jason's family, went to his house for Thanksgiving. He had a cousin who's a nurse at the Elliott, telling all them, they're asking me how things are going with the blood pressure. And I'm like, oh, I've given up. Like, I'm fine. I'm pretty sure if I stop taking medication, I'll be fine. All the pills will stop the headaches, which they didn't. But anyway, she said, I'm a nurse. I knew she was a nurse, but she said, I see people who have had strokes because of high blood pressure. They're young and I have to change their diapers because they don't have the ability to control themselves anymore because they didn't control their blood pressure. And I remember her words, I don't want to be changing your diapers one day. And I was like, oh, I should probably go to the doctor. So I went back, but again, same old, same old. And then this around, oh, by the way, you have like really low potassium. Okay, take a supplement, prescribe a supplement for potassium, come back in a month, change the blood pressure meds too. The potassium wasn't working, still super low, double that, different meds. This became another cycle.
Right, it's just another dance.
Yeah. Just another dance. Good way to put that. Yeah. So it was horrible. And then by then, the headaches were as bad. The random heart palpitations, not like adrenaline, but like I'd be out on and you know this, like you'd go out for a long run, 8 miles, 10 miles. You're not at the fast pace.
No.
You should not out of nowhere start getting a racing heart rate. And I would. And every time I started to just get used to it, like it would go away after some strange, weird sensation in my legs, like my muscles. But it would happen at random times. I also started getting like ridiculous edema, like swelling in my legs my ankles, my lower legs, my ankles, my feet, to the point where, Barb, I was walking around school as a teacher with no shoes on because I couldn't fit into my shoes by the end of a day. And I'm like, this has to all be connected somehow.
Yeah, no, that would have scared the shit out of me and
Oh, it was
pissed me
awful.
off all at the same time.
Yeah. I couldn't wear like cute capri pants or
Yeah.
shorts in the summer. And we'd go out, for cocktails, and I'd be the one like, these are my gross feet. Like,
Yeah.
it was bad.
I'm wearing Crocs and a granny skirt. All right.
Yeah, like cover them down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maxi skirt all the way down.
Yeah.
Crocs and a granny skirt.
Now, were you able to run at all?
I was still running. I bought size 8.5 shoes because my feet wouldn't fit. So the whole time I kept running, and I never felt good. I mean, there were times like I managed a bunch of good races. Like I still during all this time ran my PR in the marathon 249. But here's the trick. In the middle of the Houston Marathon, I started getting the heart palpitations, like really scary, and they went away and then they came back. And I remember this race, I was 19-mile mark, and I'm really running well. Like I'm at the time, the B standard for the Olympic trials is 247, and I was under it, and it was 19 miles. And I just had to stop. And I stopped and I went to the side of the road and let my heart stop. And I was like, okay, I got to get to the finish line at this point. So I did stop for like 2 minutes and I finished that one. Thank God, fine. It was 249, but I'm sure it would have been.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's okay. It's fine. That would happen to me a lot. Or I'd wake up with a migraine, and with the swollen feet came swollen eyes.
Oh.
Like really ugly swollen eyes. Like at school, this would happen. But if I go to a race, that extra water, I mean, I could put on 8 to 10 pounds and lose it like later that day. It was the weirdest thing.
Well, and edema is so, we're so much of our body is water. So when you start holding on to it, my mother has big legs. She's in her 80s, and it's just a very common byproduct of her high blood pressure, aging and all. And of all the symptoms she has, that's the one that makes her the most uncomfortable. It's like my body is just holding on to this water. Like, and Kenny, when he got his kidney transplant, for like 5 days, he gained like 25 pounds of water. And it was just alarming. It's like, cut my skin, like let it out. Like that.
Let it out.
Yeah.
100%.
I can't imagine what that must have been like for you.
Well, it was horrible. And I had a doctor told me that it was allergies, and she told me to take Claritin.
Good.
And try that for 7 days. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not that, but okay, I did everything. Barb, I was even another doctor who I loved, this one. She was wonderful. She ended up leaving her practice to do like a fellowship or whatever they call it at Harvard. So I lost her, but she, I think, would have been the one in 2011 prescribed a 13-week program at the Benson Henry Institute for Mind Body Health down at Mass General. I had to go outpatient. I'd drive down every Tuesday. I drove down 13 weeks. Each class started with a blood pressure reading and a weigh-in. I had just run a 1:18 half marathon, and on that Sunday that I started this course, and I show up, and God love them, they ended up being my people. It was like heart attack patients, diabetics, obese,
and you
and me.
Like
getting
an outward picture of health. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to get our way. We had to do a nutrition class. There was a yoga piece, which I loved. I had never done yoga before. And then it was a 30-minute exercise class, which I took the bike by the window.
Yeah.
It was fine. I ended up graduating, but my blood pressure at the end of the course was still as high as it was at the beginning. But that was just just another thing I tried. And it never could get the blood pressure down. The potassium never stabilized.
No.
And and I Googled that connection with headaches. And again, this pheochromocytoma kept coming up.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert, wasn't actually what it was, but very close. At one point in 2016 or 17, I went to see a nephrologist at Mass General who took one look at the records that I had sent. Like, she put the pile on the desk. It was like that much. She had gone through the paperwork before I got there, and she said, I'm pretty sure this is caused by something called Little syndrome, which was like a mutation. It was genetic, a mutation in like the sodium channel. There was genetic testing that we could have done, but she said, let's do this. I'm going to try this potassium sparing diuretic blood pressure pill, one pill. And if this brings your blood pressure down, and your potassium up,
Yeah.
then that's probably what this is. And let's just do that as your treatment. So it was called Miloride, and I took it and I went back to see her, and my blood pressure was stable. My potassium was stable. So we considered me a little syndrome patient. A couple years went by and I didn't really check my blood pressure a lot, but
Did the
when I
puffiness go away?
see her, no. I didn't know what to think about that, but because
Yeah.
this pill was keeping my blood pressure down, I was like, well, that's good. Like, that's good because, I read somewhere that if you have high blood pressure that's uncontrolled, it can take like 10 years off your life. And I started thinking like, it's never going to be controlled. I'm always going to have high blood pressure
Right.
and there goes 10 years, like that's what I thought. And so at least I can control my blood pressure. And all these years where it wasn't, well, now it's controlled now. So,
Right.
okay.
Right.
Was very uncomfortable with the swollen feet, the headaches. I was still addicted to Excedrin. I was like really addicted to
Yeah.
Excedrin.
Yeah.
Life just went on. I ran barely, stopped going to races. I was embarrassed. My body looked gross. My eyes always looked like monster eyes. I called them my headache eyes.
Yeah.
And I was just, because you don't want to go to race. Everyone's like, just go for fun. And
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
it's not fun though.
you get it,
I
right?
do get it.
How's
It's
that
not fun.
fun?
Like, no, it's not fun. So I'm not going to go.
I didn't go. Yeah. I don't remember what made me think I wanted to just run again, but in 2022, my iFit treadmill, there's this cool program. I started like running on my treadmill just because I didn't have to leave the house. And there was a cool like train for a half marathon series, and I loved the trainer. And so I did the series and I'm like, you know what? What the hell? I'm going to go to a race. So I went to in Manchester. They do still have the Shamrock Shuffle, but they had a Shamrock half marathon with it.
Yep, I remember. Yep.
I went to that first time at a race in forever, and it was just cool to be with all the people. And I wasn't going fast, but I put on headphones and I just wanted to be out there. And I ended it, I think I finished it in like 1:30. I thought if I could break 1:40, I'd be happy, which, that competitive mind, oh, how far we've come. I used to run in the 1 teens and here I am. But I was happy because I think I ran like 1:36 or 1:35. And I was like, well, maybe I should run a full marathon now.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did. I went to Myrtle Beach in 2023 and I thought, well, I'm 49. I'll be 49. Why don't I try to run the Boston qualifier for a 49-year-old, which I think was like 350 or something, 355, 350.
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's an hour slower than what this body has done. I can totally do it. And I didn't, but it's fine. I got close, whatever. I didn't feel great. It was hot. I finished it. I got a medal. It was great in that way. But I came home, horrible abdomen pain. Like, I should back up. At some point in like the 3, 4, 5 years prior, I started getting like really bad periods, heavy bleeding, and a lot of cramping.
Which is consistent with perimenopause, but with everything else, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
And I had gone to my gynecologist for a checkup for the first time in forever in the fall of 2021. Went home and I explained my symptoms. They told me everything was great. Everything looked perfect. And so I'm like, okay, great. This is just aging. Everybody must be going through this. I can't be a wuss. Look at all the women in the world, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a wuss. So I just carried on. But I was really miserable and it was weird. It was like hard. And I'm like looking around at work and like in life and like, are all these women past the age of 45 going through this? And I'm just the one that like needs to keel over and complain all the time. I'm not tough enough.
Yeah.
Well, I went to the emergency room at some point. They told me I had colitis and they gave me an antibiotic and that was what the abdomen pain was, but it never went away. I took all the antibiotic, but never went away. So again, I'm just not tough enough.
Right.
Run this marathon in Myrtle Beach, go to the emergency room a week later because I said to Jason, I was walking around holding my belly like I did when I was very pregnant and in labor. It was that heavy feeling you get at the end of your pregnancy. Like I went running at the end of both of my pregnancies with a belt that held the belly up.
Yeah.
I felt like I needed. And mind you, Jason's saying, Tammy, you have a flat stomach. What are you holding? And I'm like, it doesn't. Felt like I had a boulder in there.
Right.
So I go to the emergency room this time and they admitted me. And they said, you have something called a tubo-ovarian abscess, which could be really, really bad. I'm like, I just ran a marathon. I've been complaining about this for a very long time,
Right.
and I thought I was just getting old. And they're like, well, you are getting old, but this is really what's going
Right.
on. And it's not colitis. It probably wasn't colitis. And here we are. And that was a year and a half later than the first time I went and complained about that abdominal cramping and stuff. I ended up getting a hysterectomy. I went to the follow-up with my regular primary care doctor. You just have to follow up. And she's like, I'm so glad you got this taken care of. And I had barely seen her because I just stopped going to doctors, whatever.
Right.
My gynecologist doctor was the one that handled all that. Anyway, I followed up with Jessica Lawn at Amherst Family Practice. And she was like, I'm so glad this was taken care of. I can't believe you went through that. You are a warrior. Good for you. Now, let's talk about that tumor on your adrenal gland. And I said, I'm sorry, what now? She holds up the paper. She says, right here, they saw it on the scan in the hospital. You have a mass on your adrenal gland. And I'm like, wait, what? Like a pheochromocytoma? What? And I have chills just telling the story because it's still to this day gets me.
Isn't that what you thought you had? Like,
that's what I thought I had. Yeah. Now, this is not a doctor that knew anything about that. Like she knew I was taking a blood pressure pill, but she didn't know because I didn't bring it with me when I started seeing her because I'd given up.
So my quick question now, 11 years into this thing, somebody says randomly, oh, by the way, what about this? When you first thought maybe you had the disease that you picked up and it would have been a tumor on the adrenal gland, did they do a scan to tell you that that's not what you have?
Everyone asks me. They did an ultrasound on my abdomen. There was nothing in because I ordered my medical records and there was nothing in there that said this particular same type of like scan with contrast was done back then. I was just told that wasn't it. Yeah. Oh, the ultrasound, the adrenal ultrasounds didn't show right, whatever it needed to be. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. Called up the doctor that we thought I had Little syndrome, that amazing nephrologist at Mass General. And she's like, oh, well, let's have that looked at. Sent me to Dr. Shout out to Nicholas Tethados at Mass General Adrenal Center. He did all the right testing. So this was my first meeting with him was May 5th, 2023. And by August, so there's a series of tests I had to undergo to be sure this was it and not a pheochromocytoma. He knew it could have been one or the other, but he tested me for this primary hyperaldosteronism, which is the tumor on your adrenal gland that causes excess aldosterone, which can cause heart palpitations, headaches, high blood pressure, low potassium because aldosterone suppresses potassium. Like all these, I had to have, some tests done. Then I had to have they call it adrenal venous sampling, where they go in and they take straight out of that vein in your groin, whatever it is, but they take the aldosterone.
Your femoral artery?
That, and they take it straight out of there, the aldosterone and renin, R-E-N-I-N. There's a ratio they have to look for, but it comes straight out of the adrenal glands. Come to find out, my left one had the disproportionate, it was testing for the tumor secreting just on the one side, too much aldosterone. My other one was fine. And I was hoping for that because if you have it in both adrenal glands, you can't live without two adrenal glands. So had it been a bilateral, they call it, I would have been on medication for the rest of my life because it was the unilateral, the left side, that's the side that has the tumor on it. Mm-hmm. They removed it October 19th, literally 4 months to the day after my hysterectomy. And I haven't been on a pill since. I haven't had a headache. My feet are skinny, no heart palpitations, and I am living healthy.
So my initial reaction to this, just having gone through all that I've gone through with my own health over the years, with losing Molly to a fucking astrocytoma, which is one of the most common brain tumors in teenage girls. And she had every symptom, right? So I've gone through just the rigmarole, and I don't mean to be anti-male or sexist, but so much of medical work is done on male-bodied people. And then it's dumbed down for female-bodied people. When I think of the fact that you had an idea that could have been yes or no definitively with a simple freaking ultrasound with contrast or a CAT scan, right? Let's just take a look and see. It would have been there. They would have seen it. But this isn't what happens. What happens is, well, that could be it, but probably not. Let's do this. And there's all these thises that we have to do first. And then something completely unrelated that caused you to have a look inside your belly shows this tumor on your adrenal gland, which wasn't the disease you thought it was, but was the
Still
disease.
there. Yeah.
Wow. Sometimes maybe the journey is part of the process. I don't know, but years and years of feeling like shit and walking around with high blood pressure. I got preeclampsia when I had Jack. That high blood pressure beat the shit out of me for a while. And it was the one time in my life that I felt like I had something that I really could not control and I couldn't see or feel. Like I didn't have a headache. I never felt flushed. So in between all this, you had a second baby. How was that pregnancy?
When I got pregnant with her in the fall of 2011, I stopped getting headaches. I asked about that when it was all said and done. It's so interesting because evidently, what's the female hormone when you get pregnant? Progesterone?
Progesterone?
That suppresses the aldosterone. So that's why. That's why those nine months, she came a little early, were headache free and blood pressure was pretty stable. They had switched me to a medication back then that could be safe for pregnancy.
Right.
And it was working. But what was working was just the pregnancy hormone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another super interesting thing I asked about was why did nobody mention this? And the doctor at Mass General, Dr. Stathatos, had the most realistic way of explaining it to me. Like he said, picture this. What is it? 10% of all people have high blood pressure, right? He said it is estimated that 30% or whatever the number was actually have this, but it's not known enough by primary care doctors or even specialists. He said, think of it this way. We have this database at Mass General. I can type in any condition, any disease, anything, and I can get a list of patients who have it. So if I typed in hypertension, then I should get like 100, maybe a million, whatever the patients are at Mass General, say 100,000. Now, what's 30% of 100,000? It's a lot.
That's like 30,000.
Right? Yes. If I typed in hyperaldosteronism, I should get 30,000. I get about 1,000. It's not known. It's not known enough. And so awareness needs to be like key, not for people like you and me, but for people who are testing and diagnosing and seeing patients. Basically, if you have to take 3 different blood pressure medications in order to control, and you're younger than, say, 40, there's something wrong with that. Yes. Probably even younger than 50, but I'm not a doctor, but there's something really wrong with that.
Yeah. The other understood adrenal glands is part of it, and then thyroid gland as well. The thyroid is responsible for so many things. And I have a good friend that I went to high school with who died by suicide. She had unbelievable depression. And what was hard for her was she's like, I don't know why I'm depressed. I've never been depressed. I'm fine. But she killed herself. And in the autopsy, she had a tumor on her thyroid, which would have caused the depression. It put her like into a thyroid storm. But no one thought we're so quick sometimes. I know I get stuck on the female piece. It's just all I went through with Molly. But we get so stuck on assumptions and stereotypes and, okay, we have this pill. Let's try a pill and move on. Like our medicine doesn't really want to cure anything. It just wants to treat the symptoms so that you can come back for more. And oh, you feel better? Well, good. Then let's just do this for now. Well, okay. Like why after my pregnancy did I get high blood pressure for no reason at all? Well, there was a reason, like you got it. So why would we just let you have high blood pressure all through your 30s and 40s when, what the hell, like in listening to this, what comes up for me is just how unseriously sometimes female health issues are, because I think we're just, oh, that's hormonal. Oh, it's your menopause. Oh, it's this. There's always a reason why you're having the symptom, as opposed to, let's look at all the reasons so when you found out what it was and that you could fix it by removing the tumor, what was it like for your family? Like,
right. I know they were astonished, but also relieved and just grateful that finally, I went through like anger a little bit. Like I just lost my 40s and like a lot of my 30s, and come on, this is stupid, but obviously you can't.
No. So we just have to put it out there. Once you got well, is that when the idea to write a book came about?
Yes. Then I was like, I need to go back and I need to look. And I was like seeing all my emotions. Like I don't look at stuff that I like until I did this. I'm like, oh my God. I went to a cross-country meet in my 40s with some girls to represent Millennium. Before Millennium Running became this like huge cult club, we were this tiny little group and we went down to run, I think, the Mayor's Cup. I remember waking up that day, and I wrote about it, and I read this thing I wrote about how my eyes were humongous and my feet were huge. These girls are so fast, and I'm going to show up and look like an elephant. And I felt like an elephant, and I ran as hard as I could, and I had heart palpitations, and I fell at the finish line. And I wrote about all this, and I'm like, they're going to think I'm the biggest wuss. They didn't, of course. They were wonderful. They're very nice people. Girls were awesome. But I just remember feeling so embarrassed.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know there was anything like medically going on. It's just, I'm not strong enough. I'm not tough enough. And I'm like, you know what? I cannot be the only one who's going through something like this with this. Like, there's nothing out there. So maybe, and these are my own words, but they made me feel something. I'm like, maybe somebody can relate or it would resonate. And it's a story. So I requested all of my medical records from Southern New Hampshire Medical System and St. Joe's, because I went to both when I switched off doctors, and Mass General. As a teacher, had the entire summer to write it up. And so I didn't work last summer. I wrote the book. And as I'm going through everything and I'm seeing notes after appointments where my blood pressure was off the charts, I'm just like, how? And then I had Jason read it. Like, I just put it all together at first and I gave it to him, and he's like, this chapter should be called Let's Try the Other Arm, because they would always just say, let's try the other arm, or try it a different way. And it's just all it was. And so I thought it would make a good story if somebody comes across it because they're going through this. Now there's something out there they can say, that could be me. Wow. I didn't have that. That was my thought.
No, that's the whole reason you write a book, because you have a message that can help the 29,000 people that haven't been diagnosed, like of the 100,000, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that percentage, like, wow. You send that book to every single adrenal office, or you send it to every primary care. Here, please read this book. Please research this. Because an ultrasound with contrast is a no-brainer test. It's nothing. Even a CAT scan with or without, it's nothing. They take 2 minutes.
They have to do it and look for anything that's not like colitis. Yeah, they missed that too. I lived miserably with that problem for 2 months as well. But it's, again, I feel really good now. So I enter this contest on a whim. I've been using iFit forever, so they're in my algorithm on social media. I see, do you want to run the Sydney Marathon? They'll pick 10 people, but you have to record a video and post it publicly on social media. And I'm like, oh, I can record a video. Social media public? Oh, well, you know what? What the hell? Yeah. I asked Jason, I was like, what do you think of this video I just made? And he's like, that's really good. You should do it. I'm like, really? Anybody could see it. And he's like, just do it. You can always take it down after the deadline, whatever. Yeah. So the deadline was May 29th. I think I submitted it a couple days before that. And I found out they chose me last week.
Oh, it makes me cry.
That's so funny. It's like, oh my gosh, I have like 12 weeks or 11 weeks now to get ready. I'm going to run. But the goal isn't going to be, obviously.
No, you just go have fun. Now you go have fun.
Celebration of health, right?
Have fun in your healthy body, and you can interact and bring mega copies of your book with you. And give it seriously. Seriously. Oh my gosh. I give my book away all the time. I'm never going to make any money on it, but I don't really care. Because it helps people. It's hard to read, but I've never had anyone read the book and not be glad they read it. And I can't wait to read your book. I did the standard special ed teacher thing where I don't want to know anything about what I'm going to talk to you about. I want to hear it for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, then I feel like I take the information in a much more pure sense. So I haven't read your book, but I'm going to. Have you done an audio version? Do you have an audio book?
That came out very recently. I hired somebody or I share the royalty with her. It's a royalty share.
So can people get your book like Amazon, typical places?
Yeah, just Amazon.
Oh my God, I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Well, no, I mean, so here's the thing. So Mass General is close to me because that's where Kenny had his kidney transplant. So I had a student years ago, and her dad just had received a pig kidney at Mass General. Amazing story. And his whole issue was, I had stage 5 renal failure. I'm going to die. My daughter's a perfect match, but she weighs 300 pounds and she has to have gastric bypass and lose weight before I can have her kidney, and I'm not going to make it. So I'm going to find a way to live. And he did the research and found out that Mass General is involved in the pig kidney. So he called up and said, what do I have to do? I want to do this. One of the questions is, why are you doing this? And he said, twofold. I would like to live to receive my daughter's kidney, but mostly to give hope to other people. I can't be the only person in this place. And he's like, ask for help, ask the questions, advocate for yourself. And he's just all in it for helping people. And I look at you and it's the same thing. Like, Yeah, you could have just, okay, I'm better now and put it all behind you and move along. But no, there's a story to tell, and the story is going to help somebody. I think that's what makes me proud is you take some horrifying thing, this terrible experience, and you make it into something that someone else can read about or listen to and be better because of it. And you didn't have to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like I didn't have to do it either. I could crawl under a rock and stay there and nobody would judge me for that. But I just feel like if my life is a shit sandwich, then it might be nice to let everyone know how this came to be, like so that I don't know. Yeah,
I
it's
love
just
that. Yes, that's true.
like okay.
Oh,
Wow. So now you feel all normal again.
I feel all normal again, and I cannot explain it. Here's a way to put it. My poor son had a headache recently, and he's like, "Do we have anything in the house I can take for this headache?" I'm like, "No." And when I tell you I had Excedrin bottles stashed everywhere, like
No, I believe it. Yeah.
everywhere.
Oh my God, Tammy, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so glad that you were willing to
Oh,
do this.
I loved this.
Yeah. No, it's important.
You.
And is there any sort of one message you have for people?
Well, my message is just don't stop asking questions. Like, don't accept that this is the way you have to live.
Right.
If you're uncomfortable and you have a gut feeling that something is causing it,
Yeah.
keep asking questions. Find a different doctor. I mean, I can't even tell you how many doctors I had, but like, keep asking questions and don't settle for that it's just the way you have to be for the rest of your life.
Right. That's the most infuriating thing. Right. So as always, everybody, be good to yourselves. Tammy was good to herself. She never stopped asking the questions. She never stopped pushing the agenda. And luckily, she got an answer. It isn't always that way, sadly. So after you're good to yourself, be good to someone else. If you listen to this and you know someone can benefit from it, share the podcast with them. Spread the word. Tell me the name of your disease again.
Primary hyperaldosteronism.
Primary hyperaldosteronism. Hot dang. Okay. So essentially, unexplained high blood pressure, puffiness, tingliness, heart palpitations, headaches, and nothing seems to go away. Low potassium.
Yeah.
If any of those things are going on in your life, go to your doctor.
That's right.
As always, Tammy, thank you. And everyone, have a good day, everybody.
Hey, thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Feel free to leave a review and share my stories with your friends. Please reach out with your own stories, as I love connecting with my listeners. If you would like to get to know Molly, head over to mollybfoundation.org to see what she is all about. If you want to see what I'm up to next, you can find me on Instagram at barb_444, on Facebook as Barb Higgins, and at my website, 1000tinysteps.com. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, a weekly way to find out what's up in the life of Barb Higgins.